some stuff. Reading some stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Reading some stuff. You had a lot to say. Legate Malpay says, this is anti-Semitic trash. I am calling the ADL. You're outraged. I can hear it. Sparky, how do we know that Israel is not the 51st state? Because if Israel was the 51st state, they'd only control 2 senators. Bam! Nice one, Sparky. Pat says, yeah, we'll see Mike in Chicago. Is there a meet and greet in Chicago? And if so, when is it? It's after the show in Chicago, and I believe it's sold out. Confirmation?
But the meet and greet is sold out.
Meet and greet is sold out. But, ready? Do me a favor. You see my guy, Mike Timpson, selling the merch. You slip him a 20, bam, you'll be in line, and it's after the show.
So Mike Timpson, tell him what he looks like Jimmy, but about 6 inches taller.
He looks like Jimmy, 6 inches taller. He looks like he's related to Jimmy.
He looks like he's my brother.
Is this Jimmy's brother?
And he'll be at the selling.
That's the guy.
He'll be selling T-shirts and hats. And,
yeah. Do you want to go to you?
Yeah.
Go to Jimmy.
And he'll be selling T-shirts and hats and stuff. And if you want to get on the meet and greet, go up to him, palm him a $20 bill, and say, "Hey, is there a chance I can get into the meet and greet?" And he'll take you over to the meet and greet. But is it after the show?
After the show. I hope you're sober.
Oh.
But you couldn't do that Chicago show before. There's no way mentally that you would be prepared to meet 100 people before your show.
Okay. Well, I'm
You don't sound convinced. You should be.
Okay. We gotta find a venue. Okay. We gotta have a party afterwards. Okay, let's get back to this. We have a special guest with us. Caleb Maupin is a journalist and political analyst based in New York City. He has reported extensively from the Middle East and Latin America and has made frequent media appearances on RT and Press TV. He is also the founder and director for the Center for Political Innovation, as well as the author of this book right here, which is called Kamala Harris and the Future of America, an essay in 3 parts. Welcome to the show, Kamala. Caleb. So here's the story. Well, good to see you, buddy. How are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Okay, so the reason why we have you on today is because you wrote this book, and it was originally published in 2020, but guess what? It got censored. So when she was named the Democratic presumptive nominee, what happened? You tell people what happened.
I wrote this book 4 years ago in 2020. September of 2020, it was published. It created a little bit of a buzz. It was, I got reviews in British newspapers in India, gave some talks on it, spoke to some web conferences. Not a big deal. Sold a few hundred copies. It was just something I did. And it's been online ever since. It's been selling. And there you go. And so I figured, hey, with Kamala being named the presumptive nominee, might see a slight uptick in sales. Well, Monday at 7:26 p.m. local time, I get an email from Amazon. And it's interesting because, this is the book. And if anyone had it beforehand, it's a collector's item now because they said there was something with the cover that was not correct. And they said I had multiple options, one of which was to just change the cover. And so I thought, well, geez, I don't want to miss this moment. This is the moment where everyone's talking about Kamala. So I adjusted the cover, put a completely generic, bland cover, and re-uploaded to Amazon. Denied. Tried it again. Denied. Tried it again. Denied. They said the issue was the cover, which has been fine for the past 4 years. But now it's pretty clear this has been removed from Amazon. It is not allowed to be on Amazon.com, despite being on there for 4 years. And so it appears that my book is not permitted to be on the world's largest bookseller. This ultra monopoly has removed my book, and it just so happens to come the day that Kamala Harris is named as the presumptive nominee. And I think it looks like censorship to the world. It's got pretty good reviews.
So that's what it used to look like up on Amazon there. Got 4.5 stars. Look at that. So, but now if you go there, that's what it says.
Well, and that's the other thing. Usually, I have a number of books on Amazon. If you have a book up and there's some kind of snafu with it, generally what happens is that it remains on the page, but it says not available at this time, currently not available until you fix whatever the issue is. But this book has been scrubbed. It's like it never existed on Amazon.com. It's just completely gone. I'm blown away So there you go.
Well, give me a second. You've received no exact communication from Amazon? Like, I mean, like they're not telling you why they're doing this?
No, they told me there was an issue with the cover on Monday, and so I immediately changed the cover to a completely generic cover, and every time I have resubmitted it, denied, and it shoots right back to me. And it's pretty clear they don't want this book up there. Max Blumenthal in that tweet speculates that this possibly came from the White House.
Here's what he said. He said, did the White House just order Amazon to take down Caleb Maupin's book? The Biden White House flooded Meta and other social media platforms with demands to censor accounts that question Fauci and the science during the COVID event. So it seems plausible that they would do this.
Indeed. And I'm quite surprised because I've been working with Amazon for quite some time. And it's been up for 4 years and there's never been an issue. And then they remove it right then with a very strange explanation, claiming it's something about the cover, which I immediately fixed. And then they still won't allow it to go up. Very, very interesting.
No.
And I do want to say, you know, this book is not a partisan hit piece on Kamala Harris. I mean, it's not positive on her, but it's about a lot more than Kamala Harris. It's about American politics. I go into a lot of different things in the book. I'm not, you know, just going to write, you know, one of these things where you throw everything but the kitchen sink at her. I make some very clear points. It's called an essay in 3 parts. And I basically use Kamala Harris to make 3 points about American politics, to make, you know, to explore 3 different, you know, aspects of what I learned from doing research on Kamala Harris. The other thing I want to say, and I want to make this absolutely clear, I do work for RT. I've reported for RT for a long time. I have met the Russian president on multiple occasions and spoken with him. This book has nothing to do with Russia. No Russians had anything to do with publishing this book. I'm an American citizen. I wrote this book in 2020 after learning about Kamala Harris's father and doing a deep dive into research on her. This book has nothing to do with Russia. It is not Russian propaganda. And I'm sure if this continues to blow up, that will be the card that's played. But I'm an American citizen. I was born in Ohio, and no Russians had anything to do with this book. And I think if I had gone to the Russians I work with at RT and elsewhere and told them I was going to publish this, they probably would have tried to stop me and said, don't do this, don't rock the boat. So, you know, please don't, you know, if that shoe drops, they're just wrong.
So I didn't know, but I just found out reading this book is that when she gave that speech, we used to have signs that said, fund more schools, not prisons. And she was mocking people who said that. And she's actually for funding prisons more than schools. And she's that in Chicago.
Yes, it was at the Chicago Ideas Forum in 2013. And she began her speech by strutting around the stage in this mocking voice saying, build more schools, less jails, build more schools, less jails. And she's making fun of people that oppose it. I mean, her record as prosecutor in California is horrendous. 2004, Kevin Cooper was hours away from getting the death penalty by lethal injection. They wanted DNA evidence to make sure he was actually guilty of the crime. And Kamala Harris's office moved to block the acquiring of DNA evidence. Now, they were overruled. The execution was stopped. But this man was hours away from dying. They want DNA evidence, and her office moves to stop it. And she tells the New York Times, I feel awful about it. Well, that's great. She feels awful about it. 2010, you had the drug lab scandal. You look at the drug lab scandal, Jimmy, that is something else. In California, you have, you know, a number of people that are on trial for crimes, and part of their investigation is they have to take a drug test. And the drug lab is turning over false positive results. People are it's saying that they used drugs when they didn't use drugs. And Kamala Harris becomes aware of this, and her office becomes aware that the drug labs are turning over false positive results. But they don't tell anybody. They don't turn this information over.
So how do we find out that she knew?
Eventually, it becomes revealed, and the courts rule that she violated the rights of hundreds of people. Thousands, over about 1,000 cases are thrown out. People are released from jail because Kamala Harris was caught concealing false positive drug test results. I mean, that right there, you want to talk about something that is unethical, something that reveals a blatant, callous disregard for the rights of other people. I mean, And Reason Magazine, I must say, I quote a lot of their work in the book. They have done a great job looking into what kind of a prosecutor that she was. 2014, when she's the California Attorney General, they're releasing people from jail, and her office makes the argument on numerous occasions that people shouldn't be released from jail because, quote, the state would lose, quote, an important labor pool. They would lose money, right? They're paying these prisoners 8 cents to 37 cents an hour, right? So instead of, hiring a law-abiding citizen on the outside and paying them benefits, right? They want to keep paying prisoners. People are going to be released from jail, and they're saying, don't release them. We need to keep it, keep them as slave laborers, essentially, right? I mean, that has nothing to do with justice, nothing to do with whether the person is a threat to society or should be released. No, we just need their cheap labor. And the fact that she's tried to reinvent herself as Miss Black Lives Matter, the spokesperson for the downtrodden and all of this, it is the most phony thing. I mean, she rose up the ranks of California's criminal justice system in the late 1990s, early 2000s, when they were locking up people at astronomical rates. It is shocking how she's tried to reinvent herself as something she very clearly is not.
So that's the hilarity, is that Black Lives Matter, actually their Twitter account anyway, came out against this and came out against her yesterday, which I'm going to talk about in another segment. They said this isn't democracy, and she hasn't garnered one vote. And because it isn't democracy, what other things, what other shocking things would people find out if they were able to buy this book at Amazon? Where are they able to buy it now? Is there any place?
It's on Lulu now, which is an alternative to Amazon. You can go to Lulu right now and you can buy it. I posted it on Lulu with a generic cover. It's up there. People can buy it on Lulu, and people have been buying it. People are wondering what is so shocking in this book about Kamala. Well, I got to tell you, the reason that I wrote this book is because I interacted with somebody. There was somebody I came across. And they had worked with Kamala Harris's father, Donald Harris. And they told me about that. And so I started doing research because, you remember when Barack Obama was running for president? We learned everything there was to know about, his mother, Ann Dunham, his father from Kenya, his grandparents, and everything, Jeremiah Wright and the school in Indonesia. But no one knows anything about Kamala Harris. Nothing. I mean, we know nothing. We know that she was in Congress. She gave some great speeches, and now she's potentially the next president. We know nothing about her. Well, her father is Donald Harris, who is a Marxist economist who taught at Stanford University. He was an advisor to the government of Michael Manley, the kind of socialist president of Jamaica, kind of a Bernie Sanders president of Jamaica for a long time. And he and her are not on speaking terms. He denounced her presidential campaign in 2020. And there's a story there. There's a lot there. And no one wants to talk about it. I dug into it and did the research.
And why did he? No, it had something to do with her disparaging Jamaicans as pot-smoking potheads, right?
Well, yes. So what happened was she was on a radio show called The Breakfast Club. And she was asked if she'd ever smoked marijuana. I don't know if you remember this. And she said, oh, yeah, that she smoked weed when she was in college. And then they asked her what music she listened to when she smoked weed. And she said Snoop Dogg. And that was interesting because Snoop Dogg had not yet released an album at the point when she was in college. So that's interesting. But regardless, she then said, half my family's from Jamaica. What do you think? And Donald Harris heard about this, and he didn't particularly care for it. And he published an essay called Reflections of a Jamaican Father. And in that essay, he reveals that it looks an awful lot like Kamala Harris lied in her autobiography. In her autobiography, The Truths We Hold, she says that when her parents divorced when she was a small child, the only thing they fought over was the books. Oh, doesn't that sound nice? They only fought over the books. Well, Donald Harris reveals they actually fought over who got custody of Kamala and her sister. There was a custody battle. And in that custody battle, they played up the stereotype of Jamaican men and black men as not good fathers, as pot smokers, as lazy, etc. And that stereotype that she invoked of Jamaicans as, joy-seeking, I forget the language he exactly used, but, that was used to deprive him of the ability to see his daughters. So he particularly took issue from it. He denounced her presidential campaign. He called it a travesty of identity politics, and he said he speaks for her entire Jamaican family. He did not attend her inauguration as vice president. Her mother is deceased, and Kamala Harris talks about her mother endlessly. Her mother is like a saint. But her father, nobody talks about the fact that she has this father who taught Marxist economics at Stanford University, etc. And there's a lot there if you dig into it. That is particularly surprising. If Barack Obama had a Marxist father, we would have heard about it endlessly. But nobody wants to talk about Kamala Harris and her estrangement from her father in Jamaica.
The thing is, we talked about this yesterday or the other day. It would be a mistake for Trump to come at her as being some kind of far left Marxist radical, because she's not. She's not. She is a very much an authoritarian enemy of black people, lock 'em up cop, and a tool of the military-industrial complex and Wall Street, along with Big Pharma. So she is a corporate puppet. And she's all the bad things you would think of. I used to equate with being right wing, but now things are flipping around. So I don't know, those terms don't mean anything anymore. So, but yeah, she's not a far leftist. Ed, would you consider her a far left? You wrote the book.
No, not at all. I mean, what is interesting, though, is that, her parents certainly were on the far left when they met each other.
Right.
They met each other at the free speech movement in Berkeley. They were part of, left-wing protests. They were most likely in some kind of communist organization at that time. We don't know exactly, but her father was a Marxist economist. They were both attending protests. But what's interesting, and I talk about this in the first chapter of the book, is that, Berkeley in the early 60s was not only the center of, protest movements for civil rights, the free speech movement at UC Berkeley, it was also the center of all kinds of CIA programs intended to manipulate left-wing politics. Starting with the downfall of McCarthy in the late 50s and early 60s, the U.S. government started covertly funding various leftist and communist groups while manipulating and crafting their politics to serve a different agenda. The Bay Area was the center of Project MKUltra, where the CIA was distributing LSD, throughout civilian areas, just handing acid to people, etc. And there was all kinds of manipulation of the politics of the Bay Area. And her parents were heavily involved in that. And that is particularly interesting when you look into it. Kamala Harris talks about how when she grew up in the Bay Area, she attended a cultural center called Rainbow Sign. And it was a cultural center connected with James Baldwin and I believe Ralph Ellison and some other black intellectuals who were being promoted by the CIA as an alternative to the communist wing of black liberation. This was the time when you had the Black Panthers that were rising, Huey Newton in Oakland and others. And so this was a cultural center that was being funded and promoted to kind of push black radicals in a direction that was less dangerous to the establishment. And that's particularly interesting when you look into it. There's a lot there if you look into Kamala Harris and her background. And the fact that no one wants to talk about her father. And when it really gets down to it, the fact that the most epic political knockout was delivered in 2020 by Tulsi Gabbard. Do you remember that?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
We played on... I was there when that happened.
Yeah, it was amazing. I've never seen, she just used her very limited time on the debate stage to just go over Kamala's record as a vicious prosecutor. And when it really gets down to it, Kamala Harris is the favored candidate of the people who ran the State Department under Hillary Clinton. And that is very clear. And that there were disagreements between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. He got rid of Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State and replaced her with John Kerry. And that when Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State during Obama's first term, we saw what happened, which was they were fomenting unrest and chaos all over the world in order to bring down governments they did not like. The government of Libya was the most prosperous country on the African continent. And, we saw what happened, which is cruise missiles. It was destroyed. Now the country's in ruin. People are drowning in the Mediterranean, trying to get out of Libya. Syria was reduced to a civil war, millions of refugees, hundreds of thousands dead. And a lot of that was the U.S. State Department coordinating with social media to create unrest. And the result, we had the rise of ISIS and the terrorists in ISIS, and it was a disaster. Well, we understand where this comes from. There was an ideologue named Anne-Marie Slaughter, who's with New America, or sometimes it's called the New America Foundation, the New American Institute. It's a think tank, and she openly talked about what she believed in. I mean, she wrote a very powerful essay talking about how the fight in the world today is between what she calls the open international system, globalism, and populists, and how populist leaders like Gaddafi in Libya, like Bashar Assad, or like Putin in Russia, or like, the people who support Brexit in Britain or Marine Le Pen, populist leaders are the danger, and that we need to promote this open international system, and that the goal is to foment unrest and chaos around the world to protect that open international system. And that's very openly stated by the Hillary Clinton State Department, by Anne-Marie Slaughter, Samantha Power, and others. And there was a decision that was made in 2020 when it was made clear that Hillary Clinton couldn't run again. There was a meeting that was widely reported on in the local press in the Hamptons in Long Island, where all the Hillary Clinton backers took their money from Hillary Clinton and they put it behind Kamala Harris. She is Hillary Clinton's chosen successor. And I go over in the book about how it looks a lot like Joe Biden did everything he could to not name her as the VP. It was a very late decision. The Democrat National Convention schedule, you'll remember in 2020, listed Kamala Harris as separate from the VP speaker. And after that schedule came out, Kamala Harris unfollowed Joe Biden on Twitter, and it looked like she was not going to be the VP nominee. 6 hours later, she was named the VP nominee. It was 10 days late, and the Biden administration did everything they could to avoid her. And if you look at what's come out since she's been in office, her staff, she can't keep them. There is a toxic atmosphere in her office. She is just, she is brutal to her staff. She doesn't make any mistakes. The only mistakes that can be made are by them. There is an atmosphere that is very competitive. Nobody on Capitol Hill likes the Harris people, they're called, for the way they treat other people. There is something particularly dangerous about Kamala Harris. And the more you look into it, it's not simply a matter of a very ambitious person. It's a matter of somebody who is very indifferent to other people's suffering. It's a matter of somebody who has a lot of pain and trauma and rage and a desire for vengeance. There is some really dangerous stuff going on there. And she is in an alliance with the regime change apparatus, the people that want to spread chaos and tear down governments around the world to preserve this open international system. There's a lot there people should be concerned about.
What is her trauma?
Well, we don't really know. What we do know is that she blames her father. She does not much care for her father. She will talk endlessly about her mother.
Really?
Her father, she rarely ever mentions him. It's like he doesn't exist. We also know that she spent most of her teen years living in Quebec in Canada, and she never talks about that. It's like a blank spot. I've heard different rumors about what might have happened during those years. I can't confirm them, but whenever she talks about her life story, she talks about her childhood in California, and she talks about, going to college or whatever. There's this big blank spot, and it's when she was living in Quebec in Canada. The other thing is that there is no politician that I can think of in modern times that talks about their own childhood as much as Kamala Harris does, right? Remember that slogan, "That little girl was me."
Yeah.
And the T-shirts with 10-year-old Kamala's face on them. And the endless references to when she was a child and when she was, experienced discrimination or discriminated racism. The latest thing is her laugh. We're not allowed to talk about her laugh because she got bullied for her laugh when she was a child, right? There's this endless talk about, childhood Kamala and how child Kamala was mistreated, how the world was unfair to her. It's rather unhealthy.
She laughs it's not her laugh per se. It's her inappropriate laughing That's the thing. It's not, we're not making fun of her laugh. We're making fun that she laughs like a sociopath because she can't pick up normal social cues and when it's appropriate or not appropriate to laugh like a maniac, which is what she does. And so I think she is a clinical sociopath. That's most people who rise to the top of politics are narcissists, to say the least. But I think she's clinically, could be diagnosed as a sociopath. So her indifference to other people's suffering is astounding. It's jaw-dropping. And the fact that she covered up when the people were coming back with false positive drug tests to keep people locked up, she her office anyway argued in front of a judge twice that we got to keep the prisoners locked up even against a court order. The court ordered her to release prisoners in California. That's how bad she was, and she still wouldn't do it. And the argument they came up with was that it'll upset the prison labor system in California. So I bet there's a lot more stuff, crazy stuff like that in here. Hey, here's one review I found. It says here, Biden may be asleep, but at least he isn't a psychotic maniac driven by hatred of their father. Kamala Harris, in her rage against the oppression of dads everywhere, is willing to nuke dads everywhere. Make no mistake about it. Kamala Harris' presidency is unprecedented. Never before has someone so fundamentally screwed in the head been this close to the presidency without any say by the American people. That's the thing, right? The people who say they're putting democracy on the ballot, there's absolutely no democracy in the primary. We've covered that already. But anything else you'd like to say people should know about your book before we say goodbye?
Well, it is very weird that it got pulled at that time, and I think we know what's going on. But it is available on Lulu, and I have it out there. I know people are circulating the PDF online as well, and I'm proud of it. I think that it was worth doing a lot of deep dive research into the woman who became the vice president, and now it looks like she could be our next president. And what I find disturbing is that the American people just don't like her. They didn't like her in 2020. They haven't liked her for the last 4 years, but the relentless effort to sell her to us. They are trying so hard to get us to like her. We're not liking her. She has not been voted for. She got very few votes in the presidential primary in 2020.
She had to drop out. She had to drop out. I thought she dropped out before Iowa.
Yeah. She just completely is not somebody. The American people can tell what she's about. You listen to the anger behind her voice. There's a phony quality to what she's doing. But there are certain people that know how to push her buttons, and they know that she will do things, and she's willing to do things like what she did when she was California State Attorney General. She's willing to do those things. She doesn't have any qualms about it, and they know how to push her buttons. She has certain trauma or rage, a desire for vengeance against the world. And there are people around her who know how to push her buttons and know how to get her to do what they want. And that is very disturbing. The more you look into her, there is a division, I must say, among the American elite, right? And that there is one faction that is very committed to spreading chaos and instability around the world. The Arab Spring that happened during Obama's first term, the results of that in terms of terrorism and refugees and all of that is ongoing. There's a lot of people in the military who don't want that. They don't want that again. They don't want that kind of instability to spread around the world. And that's really the divide that's going on. And I think there's many people, even, behind closed doors in the Democrat Party, in the Republican Party, in the military, who just think that having her in office could be very, very dangerous for the whole world.
I like this. I'll read this part of the review of your book right here. It says, what Caleb Maupin makes very clear in his book is that Harris has long been noted by all of her peers to be completely unstable. However, throughout her career, her bosses and handlers have weaponized her instability and psychopathy to forge her into a tokenized, semi-effective battering ram for whatever regressive policies need a black face behind them. That's pretty good. Well, sums up Kamala Harris, I think.
Yeah, well, read my book. It's available on Lulu, and there's a reason they took it down from Amazon. They don't want you to see what's there.
Okay. All right. It's called Kamala Harris and the Future of America by Caleb T. Maupin. Okay, Caleb. Thank you. Good luck selling some books off this.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll
Thanks.
see. Okay, over to Steph.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. All right, that was terrific. So glad that Caleb was able to make it on such short notice. That worked out. Okay, look at you at YouTube watching us. I think we're going to do maybe one more story and then we'll hop over. So just so you know, Jimmy, before we make our transition. Okay, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of things to say. Here we go. Jimmy Dore, U.S. Secretary of Defense. Oh, by the way, that was from Tony. Tony also said, take my money, you bunch of monkeys. Jimmy, evidently, Joe Rogan did a shout out to you and Kurt today.
Oh, what'd he say?
I don't know. I haven't. A couple people have already noted it in the super chat. So that's an early birthday wish.
Super chatters, tell me what he said.
So somebody told me like 48 minutes in. Sparky, spoil BlackRock's plan, make Ukraine Russia again. Yes, oh boy. Sparky, every time someone says that the Israels are our only friends in the Middle East, I can't help but think before Israel, we had no enemies in the Middle East. U.S. missionary John Sheehan. Thanks again for that one. And Tarek, you're so funny. Did anybody notice anything about Del Bigtree's chest? Yes, you said he was either wearing a shirt underneath or got too many vaccines. Come on, Tarek, you know that. All right. Sparky, after the assassination attempt, there's an acceleration of the can't beat 'em, join 'em dynamic. Hope Trump doesn't think he's won them over when they're only there as evil advisors. Sparky, are you ready to get coconut piled? What? Are you ready to be unburdened by what has been unburdened by what has been? Savage Jimmy has GOT to stop falling into Jewish tunnels. Has got to stop falling. I thought GOT, when you capitalized it, was an acronym. Oh boy. OG Moulton, I want to start a movement called Grow Weed, Not War. How does one do that? Worldwide legalization of medicinal plant growth for peace. Let's make it happen. OG Moulton. Yeah, we'll see Mike in Chicago. Is there a meet and greet in Chicago? And I told you, Pat Brannigan, you know what to do. See our friend Mike Timpson
at the t-shirt
at
table.
The t-shirt table. Slip him a little 20 and he'll get you in the line. And it's after the meeting. It's after the show. How do we know that Israel is not the 50? Oh, I read that one from Sparky. Legate Malpay, thank you so much. DC, thank you very much. Lawrence, thanks for your generosity. DC, again, thank you so much. Unvaccinated guy, she went vegan. Now she is Sally Fields of Green. Unvaccinated guy. Hey, Arik, thank you, Arik. Does Mike perform in New York City area? Maybe he was born on a cul-de-sac too. No, Reverend, he was not born in a cul-de-sac. Went to D.C. today to stand with Palestine. Filled my heart. Louise, way to go, Louise. Maybe if you have any photos of the event, send them to me. Can you do it on Twitter? All right, Michael Morgan. Thank you, Michael. Unvaccinated guy. Let's see. Jimmy's homage to Biden by introducing Caleb as Kamala is beautiful. I hope Steven doesn't lock Jimmy up and tweet she is now headlining the tour. Oh, Steven, you mean Steph? You know I identify as a woman. You know that, unvaccinated guy. Steven, oh boy. Natalie, why doesn't Caleb sell his book on alternate sites? Well, he does as well. And we found that out, Natalie. Thank you for that. Najorn, thank you. What is his name? Grazie.
Okay.
Oh, Rogan praised Jimmy on his show today at minute 48. So I'll exit the room and try to listen to that for you. What is his name? Thank you for the hot tip. Unvaccinated guy. Caleb caught gingivitis from Max Blumenthal and has been soaking in tomato paste in the bathtub and flogging himself with beets and rhubarb and penance. A lot is packed in that. A lot, unvaccinated guy. Thank you for that. Garland Nixon. Kamala is a cop. You got that right, Garland. Sick commode, oh dragon. Isn't Garland Nixon a cop? Love your show, Garland. Pat, I have VIP tickets, so I should be able to go to the meet and greet, right? Yes. At the VIP, you got it. You're all hooked up there, Pat. Moto Man Mix, 20K black men will protect Harris, or was the poll 20K men will F? Oh, that took a turn, Moto. Riveting guest, great interview. Thank you, Zach. Dan Keating, hi, Jimmy. You should have had Caleb explain why real communists hate wokeism. Also, the divide in the ruling class for the Trumpers in your audience. Dan, thank you, Dan. All right, so let me step away. You can keep the camera here. I just want... And big screen camera. Big screen camera 4. Pretty please. Oh, good. You don't have to big screen it. We're good. All right. Thank you. Jesse Smollett was on the water tower, then twinkle-toed down to the white van and drove 10 miles away, then slipped out his noose and sashayed away. Unvaccinated guy. What is his name? Thank you. What is his name? Oh, Kamala Harris. Speaks in gypsy curses, and that's Tim Dillon. Thank you for that one. Let's refresh and go over here for my Rumble. Here we go, Rumbles. Let's go. Let's see here. A little tricky, ladies and gentlemen. I only have so much room on my screen. Only so much room. Let's see. Did that one happen? All right. And that one. How about that one? That one. Okay, let's try. I think I got him. All right. On Satan's calendar, Netanyahu's speech to Congress on July 24th is the day of the FBI's Waco massacre, added to the day of the attempted assassination of Pope John Paul II. Oh, Jankies. Pritzker versus Chris Christie, sumo match, troglodyte. The Sunset Strip is the great and powerful Brian's Red Band's club. Right? Skinny Ribsy. Thank you, Skinny Ribsy. Remember the Holodomor where Bolshevik communists murdered over 10 million Christians? 1 John 2:22. My money is on the Dems to announce Arizona swing state Senator Mark Kelly as getting the nod as Kamala's VP choice. You heard it here, Rochi boy. The campaign slogan writes itself. The astronaut and the space cadet. Ah, Rochi boy. What do you get when you cross an elephant with a rhino? An elephino. Stephen John, I'm not sure how we came up with that. Vienticus Prime, thank you so much. Vienticus Prime, I avoid using Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing for my books for that very reason. Vienticus, thank you. Ordered Caleb's book from an indie bookstore. Better for us all. Marie Rose. Is the meet and greet after the show in Grand Rapids? Skinny Ribsy, you know, you're all asking me these very technical questions.
When is that?
We're going to find out right now. I bet you it's going to be after, but we'll find out. Because you can always go straight to our website, jimmydore.com, and then check out the tour, and that info will be available if you ever don't get it from me. All right? Stand by. I'm waiting to hear Skinny.
Not specified.
It's not specified, so we'll find out for you, Skinny.
Who do we ask? Okay.
All right. Tell me when you're ready, Jimmy D. Slaps nuts. A lot of people are wondering if I would boink Kamala. Yes, I would. Yeah, a lot of people slap. A lot of people. I don't believe you, Slappy. Okay, let's see what this is. Unburdened by the past is the slogan. Pol Pot's regime, probably not the first or the last time Kamala used another's idea. I sure hope I didn't mispronounce her name. Our fake black puppet dictator, G. Fontes. Let's see what this one. Every hellish road leads to Israel or Ukraine. Never trust a Jew, a Russian saying after Bolshevik, Zion, Nazi communism was Zelensky, Trump. Revan UPL. All right, let's see here. Let me make sure I opened that one. I'm pretty sure I did. I did read that one. Okay. That was your Elefante. All right, Stephen John, thank you. And back to Jim Jam.
rabbi hole, tunnels and all. There's Jews in the walls. Isn't it bliss? The rabbinical grace soiling the mattresses. Well, let me tell you. If I were Rabbi Shmuley and diddle 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 digga digga diddle diddle dum, all day long I'd diddle little bums. If I were a Shmuley man, I'd peddle all my dildos, dreidel dildos, selling dildos with my daughter and her mum. If I were a Jewish Shmuley man, I'd be digging with a dildo in my bum. I'd wear a grotesque nose and go grab some goyim right on the nipple with a pinch. A Shabbos lap dance brace for the youngest mensch.
At this time, more than any other time, you know, revolution is necessary. It is necessary. Not only based on what has happened with the MOVE organization, you know, the babies that have been murdered, you know, MOVE adults that have been murdered, bombs being dropped on us, but past that to what is happening with all black people, so-called minority people, you know, money poor people. You know, this government, as has been said earlier, has waged war on us. But you know, something about us, particularly here in America, we don't really understand that. You know, we don't really know what war is. You know, for black people, for poor people, that people see as good, that they wasn't forced to do, that they didn't do to try to keep black people appeased, you know, and calm down so that black people wouldn't riot. A prison situation is a crystallized example of that. You can make phone calls in prison. They have movies in prison. But they don't have those things because they just want to be nice to prisoners. They have those things because they know damn well if they don't have, you know, people being able to contact their family, if they don't have, you know, facilities for people to sit there and watch movies, people are going to be frustrated, upset, and they're going to direct that frustration at them prison administrators. And they're going to have riots on their hands. You know, they're going to have people in them prisons turning them prisons out. That's why they have movies. That's why they have access to phones the way they do. And a stop to it when we don't like it, or encouraging it when it's something that's in our interest. You know, we have to call the shots. The people have to take the reins of this system and start dictating, you know, what we need, what needs to be done. And, you know, taking the initiative to do it ourselves. We can't rely on this system. I mean, you know, don't people see what's happening? Every single confrontation that MOVE people have been involved in, every single issue, you know, oppression, economic issues, every single issue facing our people, you know, is something that can be dealt with very, very simply. All people got to do is make their wishes known. All people have to do is stand up and say, listen, we're not accepting that. Unity is the key. Unity is the key to revolution. Revolution ain't nothing to be afraid of. It ain't nothing to shy away from. Revolution, contrary to what officials, you know, this system and those backing the officials running this system, you know, want people to believe that revolution means violence, you know, means blood in the street. I'm saying it can get to that point, but it don't have to be violent. You know, when people come together and take a strong stand on an issue, this government don't have no choice but to listen. Where you think they get their authority from? They don't have no power, but they do have authority to do certain things. Where you think they get it from? They get it from us, from the people. You know, they get it from us accepting the things that they do to be done to stop it, then you have some people who want to then turn around and say, yeah, well, you know, it's the best we have, and want to make excuses. The time for excuses is over. It's over. You know, every man, woman, and child has to be involved in this revolution. Not only has to be, but is, whether you want to be or not. I mean, our babies gave their lives for this revolution on May 13th. You know, men, women, and children were murdered. And not just move babies, you know. What about all of the young men, women, you know, children 8, 9 years old shot down on the street by cops, you know, by drug pushers? I mean, you know, where do you think that mentality comes from? It comes from this system, from the mentality of this system of getting over, you know, making a quick buck, you know. I'm saying that's where that needs to be done to stop it. Then, you know, what I want people to really, really understand is that it's past time. It is past time for poor people, black people, you know, to realize that this system has failed you. It has failed you. You can't get nothing from it. And what people got to do is withdraw our support from it and start doing for ourselves. That's what we got to do. You know, how long are people going to sit back and beg, you know, this government to do what's right when for hundreds of years all you've gotten is a slap in the face? All you've gotten is this government kicking your ass. That's all. That's all black people have ever gotten from this government.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy and the rest of MSNBC. And click on any of the videos right here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. And you can get more videos from MSNBC for free every day with our newsletter. Just visit